Welcome back to SpeakPact. We are thrilled to have you join us today, and it's definitely going to be well worth your time. And I know that you're going to walk away with some real tangible things that you can do to boost your own speaking career and get your voice out there in bigger, broader ways. Today, we have Dr. Greg Wells with us. He is someone to watch. You're out there, you've got 5 books, but even bigger than that, you're utilizing those messages within the books and getting your voice out there in pretty big and broad ways. You are a world leading physiologist, right? Physiologist. And that doesn't just happen. That happens, you have decided to not be the best kept secret and really get your voice out there. There's a lot I want to cover, some of the things that you've done and how those opportunities opened up for you. But what I'd really love to hear is, how did you go from physiologist to, hey, I might have some value that people want to hear?
First of all, thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm thrilled to be here, deeply grateful for the opportunity. And I love helping everyone try to make the world a better place. This is just great. And it's actually kind of interesting, as you and I were discussing before we started, have loved public speaking forever. Even in high school, I was like, give me the microphone, I want to do the announcements. So this is something I've always really enjoyed. But the real shift to speaking professionally happened after the 2010 Olympics. I was a commentator. I was a sports science analyst for the Olympic broadcast, and I did a series called Super Bodies that went viral around the world. And then, of course, that leads to the opportunity to get on some stages and go and speak to companies about health, wellness, and peak performance, which is what I talk about. So that really launched it after the Olympics. But having said that, I've always loved communication. I've done segments on Discovery Channel. I've done segments on whatever magazine interview that I could possibly do. I've always enjoyed that, and I actually believe that it's important for us as scientists to tell people about research, to explain it to people in a way that they can understand. And so it's started in high school, and it's carried all the way through, and now I'm just doing it more and more often.
So you decided somewhere along the lines that you actually do like being in front of people. Number one, there are those personalities. And then number two, there's personalities like me that love to put you in front of people, right? So you recognize that about yourself. You also recognized that there is something people want to hear. And I'd like to not gloss over that, because you said super bodies, which is, I believe, one of the titles of your books, even one of your 5 books, went viral. Well, it can't just go viral unless you have a pretty good idea of what people, not only what they need, because a lot of times we don't even know what we need, right? But what they realize that they need. That's how something goes viral. So, how did you tune in to your specific audience and find that piece that was going to resonate and turn into something as amazing as a spot on Discovery Channel, right?
Yeah. Uh, it's really interesting that what happened in and around all of that is that I'm a physiologist. I study how the human body works. Congratulations on getting that right. I'm normally called a sociologist and a psychologist and everything else, but you got it. And you're one of the 3 people over the last 12 years that has gotten it right. So that's awesome. Thank you. But I love studying the human body. And in that segment on the Olympic broadcast, what I did was I showed people how the body works during competition. So during moguls skiing, for example, when they're zipping over those bumps, I talk about how the knee functions, and I talked about how the spine works and core strength. And that really fascinated people. And it did go viral, it went viral around the world. In fact, over a billion people saw those videos on various different countries around the world. And what I discovered was my unique ability was that I can take really complicated anatomy, physiology, psychology, and explain it to people in a way that they understand in about 2 minutes. And I was given 90 seconds to 2 minutes to get my point across during the broadcast. Like, we're cutting you off at 2 minutes. You've literally got like no time at all to make a point. And I was like, wow, I can actually do this. This is good. I then took that out and wrote a book called Super Bodies, and it was all about health and wellness in the body. And I went through every body system. And the challenge there was that one was too complicated. When I was writing the book, I wasn't writing it really for the audience of everyone who could benefit from the science of the human body. I kind of wrote it to make sure that my peers would think okay of that book. So it was just too complicated. I wrote it for a scientific audience, not everybody. The book after that, called The Ripple Effect, was where I really figured it out. And that's the one where it was so simple. It was like the concept was simple, that if you are able to improve your sleep, that makes it possible for you to eat better. If you eat better, you have more energy, you can exercise more. If you exercise more, that improves your mental health. So it was literally the ripple effect: sleep, eat, move, think better. And as soon as I had that simplicity, that simple framework that everyone could understand, my speaking career exploded. My authorship exploded. My ability to get out and do consulting work exploded. So it was really giving myself permission to be a scientist when I'm at the hospital and doing research and publishing my research papers. There I can be as complicated as I need to. But when we're communicating to people that are not in our field of expertise, the true magic is, can you simplify it so that you honor the science? You don't want to say anything that's wrong, but at the same time, make it understandable and actionable for people. And that was really what I think enabled that series to go well, and ultimately for me to be a speaker and an author and the
I'd
things
like
that
to
I'm doing
camp
now.
out here for a moment because you make it seem seamless, right? I just realized that I need to speak not in the peer language, right? If I was sitting at lunch with a peer, we're talking science, to speaking to somebody who doesn't know this world. They just know their back hurts every time they go for a walk. What do I do? Right? How did you? That's not easy because you are in that science every single day. You are among your peers and you are looking at test results, all those kinds of things. How do you bring yourself back to really understanding that person who doesn't know all of that? How do you get yourself to the place where you can speak their language and move them from point A to point B?
I mean, that what I just described to you in 3 minutes, that was 3 years of
Mm.
iteration, of testing, of experimenting, and a lot of ups and downs, and some really bad presentations, and and a book that was fine but didn't really crush it, and then the next book that did. But so yeah, it's not an easy process. I definitely glossed over it. I made it seem seamless. There was some ups and downs. There were some tears. There were some embarrassing moments, right, where you do not want to be a speaker ever again. But maybe I'll try this one more time, and then that one was okay. But here's what I began to test. I began to test when I was on stage and speaking. I was very sensitive to whether or not the audience was engaged. And one of the ways in which I could tell if the audience was engaged was, am I getting any questions? And if I was getting good questions, and if there was a line of people after the segment or after the presentation of people coming in and asking questions, I knew that I was getting them, right? And when you see the eyes and everyone's focused on the stage, then you know you've got them. If they're on their phones, if they're not looking at you, if they're looking down, if they're shuffling their seats, you do not have them. That content needs to go. And I took radical responsibility. I really felt like it was my personal responsibility to capture and hold their attention. I actually also started testing this because I was still teaching at the university at the time. I even challenged myself to do that during lectures at the university. And I'm talking about the heart. It's like, can I actually maintain their attention of students in first, second, third, fourth year university who have their phones and their computers out on the table? And so it was all about testing and finding the things that got people engaged and that triggered questions. And when I found something that got everyone's eyes focused in on me, when I saw the engagement, when I saw the body language, that was a segment that I would keep. And if there was anything in the presentation that I noticed was not resonating with, I relentlessly cut it. Even though I thought it was important, I realized it wasn't important to the group, and I would get rid of it. And that just, and I think that I probably got rid of initially half of every presentation would just get thrown out, and then the next time I would keep the half that would work, and it just continuously iterated like that for years. Now I'm down to about 5%. Every time that I speak, I get rid of 5%, and it's continuously iterating from there. But that's how that worked.
Okay, fabulous. You just gave us some real tangible to-dos here, and I hope that those emerging voices who want to take what they're really good at and translate it to those who are hungry for it, but maybe not hungry for it in the way that they think they are. Number one, you were courageous enough and clued in enough to shift from what you know they need to know to what they are they're willing to open their minds to, and that especially in that first encounter with you, that maybe 30 minutes to an hour that they have for you, not going to take them to point A and get them to point C or D, right? You're just going to get them that very next step. You clued in enough for that, to that, and notice the data. That's huge. And that's something a lot of speakers don't realize. It's not the audience's place to meet you. It's your place to meet them. And I love that you figured that out early on, and you were willing, courageous, and tenacious enough to cut most of your talk down relentlessly so that you could meet them where they were at. That is fabulous. And to me, that's one of the number one markers of a speaker who is going to flounder and a speaker who's going to be asked back over and over.
Yeah, two other things I did that really helped with that were I often would record the audio of my presentation. I would stick my phone in my pocket on voice memos and record my talk. And I would listen back to my own presentations, which is excruciatingly awful. You hear all of your verbal tics, you hear where you're rushing through sentences and you're speaking really, really fast. No one can, like, just, you're like, whoa, Greg, slow down, take a breath. And that really, really, really helped. It was painful. I didn't like it. The next thing I did was I took those audio files and I transcribed them using rev.com. I'm not hashtag not sponsored, but I would read the language, the words that I had spoken. And what I discovered was is that I had incomplete sentences. I had unformed thoughts. I had sentences that rambled on, and that really helped me as well. The third thing I did, and I got this from a gentleman named Ron Tite, who's an extraordinary speaker, was I stuck a GoPro on the podium, but I pointed it at the audience and I recorded the audience. So I'd have my audio and the audience. So I could see what they were how they looked during my presentations. So the horror of the first few times of listening to myself speak and then reading my own presentations after I'd given them and then watching the audience of myself speaking. I mean, there was like the worst, like ego destruction times a million, but that really, really helped me to figure out what I was saying, how I was saying it, is it working? And it's just like the hard work that you got to do to get great.
Okay, these are writer downers in a big way, but not only writer downers. Go practice these tips that Dr. Wells is bringing to the table, because these are what is going to make the difference between you getting booked occasionally and you getting booked consistently. You getting booked for low value engagements and you getting booked for those higher value engagements. This, you just brought it to the table, Dr. Wells, and thank you for this. I find it fascinating that you were able to figure these things out even after being a professor. I know you worked with the University of Toronto. You've taught a lot. It's really hard to shift from, okay, there's students here who have paid to learn something. I'm going to tell them what they need to know to do the thing, right? Versus these people are here voluntarily in my audience, and I'm going to tell them what they feel like they need to know. Like, that's a really big difference between what you know they need to know and what they recognize that they need to know. That's huge. Big chasm there. And to build that bridge takes some skill. And I don't see very many university professors being able to make that to make that journey, to shift the way that you deliver your content. So well done. And I love that you said it didn't come naturally. It took a lot of blood, sweat, and tears for you to get there.
Yeah, it really did. And there's a little structure that I figured out that I think will really, really help people. And I realized that when I was speaking as a professor, that you're there to teach the science. Your job is to help them pass that course. The more that they learn, the better that they do. You're training the future generation of doctors, physiologists, physiotherapists, psychologists, dentists, like they're going out to get even more training to become a professional. They need to know the information. And that's my job, is to convey that information, explain it so they can understand it. The difference when you're speaking to non-academic audiences is that you have to remember everyone's asking the question, what's in this for me? And you have to relate it to them. So if I'm talking about the heart for a medical group, I'm talking about the Frank Starling law of the heart, which talks about pressure and volume and dynamics. And that's fine for them to know. No one else cares. What do other people care about? They care about the fact that your resting heart rate is related to how long you live. So if you take your heart rate first thing in the morning when you wake up, that is a very good indicator of your overall stress, your overall health and well-being, and it is correlated or related to how long you live. Then people are like, okay, well, that's important. I'll measure that. How do I lower it? And say, oh, well, you lower it by going for a walk every day. By the way, that also reduces your risk of cancer and it improves your cognition, your learning, your ability to be creative. So it's related to what they care about. In the business context, it's solving business problems. So when we make that leap to structuring things in a way that it's completely geared towards helping the audience to do what the audience cares about, you win. They will listen to you forever. And the structure that I found works is story, science, strategy. So tell a story, get everyone aware of what's going on, understand the context, needs to be quick. Then the science, I explain what happens from a scientific perspective, usually by taking them inside the body. I do a lot of MRI research. I love showing MRIs of the inside of the body because when you show people that, they're fascinated. And then you finish with strategy, 1 to 3 tactics that you can use to improve the thing that I just spoke about. Moving on. And then I will typically run through that 3 to 4 times per talk. So there would be 3 or 4 sections, story, science, strategy, 3 times around, intro, extra, you're done. But when you follow that story, science, strategy, or in anyone who's watching this now, science could be your professional expertise, right? So story, put the context up, your expertise, help people to understand that from a technical perspective quickly, and then strategy, how do you implement these ideas in your life? So that's the structure that I discovered worked really, really well.
Okay, you just gave us your secret sauce. I love this. This is so much fun. So I'm going to paraphrase to make sure I got it right. You come, you start your talk with a story, basically connecting, right? Connecting to the people in the audience. You're in the right place. You're in the right at the right time. You're listening to the right person, right? You're just connecting with them. Hey, I see what he's saying. I experienced that. That relates to me, or I went through that with my mom. You know, whatever subject matter you are. So connect, and you connect through storytelling. Number one, proof of platform, right? Bring the data. Why do they care about this? You need to understand your audience enough to know that they care about that resting heart rate because they care about living long, right? So you can speak to that. Each person in their own space, there is data that backs up your process that relates to the human being who's sitting in the chair, right? And then they get, that's what's in it for me. This is why I want to stay and clue in, because Dr. Wells is going to help me know how I can care for my resting heart rate so that I can live longer for the people that I love, you know, whatever it might be. So understanding your audience, bringing them the data, basically showing them without tooting your own horn, showing them what your platform, why you are the person to listen to get to that next step. And the next step is showing them the strategy, giving them the micro wins right there in that 1 hour talk, however long it might be, so they can walk away, implement put into action some of the tips that you gave them, start seeing a difference, and then seek you out. Because if you got me that much difference in a 1 hour, 45-minute, 1 hour talk, how much more are you going to get me when I read your books, or I come to your other talks, or I seek you out for your services? How much more? I've already experienced that you understand who I am, you understand what I need, and you've given me some actionable steps. So that strategy piece, how to, brilliant. Story, science, strategy. Love that. Super, super clear framework, and that you repeat it more than once. That is huge, right? we need to hear it more than once, especially if it's a brand new concept. So the fact that you understood the psychology behind that is brilliant. That makes a huge difference. Sometimes I will re-listen to, I'm a research nerd as well, and I'll listen to something through once, and then when I listen to it the second time, I am catching so many things I didn't catch the first time, because the first time the concept is being introduced, I'm catching, my brain is connecting with that. The second time, I'm able to put those pieces together a little bit better. The third time, it's like, maybe I can do that. This is the first time. I think I can do that the second time. Hey, I'd be crazy not to do that. The doctor just gave me all the points, right, that I need to do. I'm going to do that. So it's just taking them on that journey. Brilliant that you figured that out. And again, I'm sure it's through those iterations of your talks, your books, all of those kinds of things.
Yeah, and talking a lot on social, teaching on social media. And I'm not a huge fan of social. I don't like what it's doing to the world. But I just relentlessly push out positivity, and I refuse to engage with any negativity whatsoever. So that's how I rationalize it. But what you will also discover is that the more that you teach your best ideas at scale for free, the more work will come at you.
Mm.
And it's so bizarre because you're giving away everything for free online at scale. And you're like, well, if I teach it all online for free, why would anyone ever hire me? The reality is, people will look to you because they'll hear something that you have said and they will want you to come teach that to their entire team. And I've published entire recorded presentations on my podcast. And it's crazy because I push out the entire presentation that is recorded on my podcast, and inevitably I get 3 to 5 inbound requests from that, because people are like, I want you to come into. I was like, you could just send everyone the link. They could just listen to it. It's all the same stuff. So the other bizarre thing is wrapping your head around giving away all your best ideas for free at scale. And that is one of the things that generates so much work for me.
I am so glad you brought this up, Dr. Wells, because it's again the difference between a speaker who's really going to make it and a speaker who isn't. A couple quick illustrations. One is I was interviewing a speaker who, and this wasn't a SpeakPact interview. This was somebody who was looking to utilize my agency level services. I basically turned her down after hearing this one sentence because it spoke volumes to me where she was at mentally. Fabulous speaker, sought after speaker, and a well paid speaker. But this one sentence kept me from wanting to go further with her. And it speaks exactly to what you just shared. She said she had quit the NSA. NSA, for those who don't, those watching the show should know what the NSA is, but just in case there's somebody who's maybe newer to this space, it's the National Speakers Association. She was very well connected within the NSA. Apparently, at one point, she did a talk that somebody stole some of her IP from her talk, right? She was demanding that the NSA go after them, do something, and they didn't. So she quit the NSA, right? That was enough for me to understand that she didn't understand. um, you're exactly right. Give away the gold, give it away. Nobody's going to deliver it like Dr. Greg Wells delivers it. If some parts of that are stolen, it's the highest level of compliment as far as I'm concerned. Those who are really seeking out that information, is they're going their road is going to lead back to you because you're the one, right, where it originated with. But another thing is, good, and more people are being helped with that really important information, right? There's enough for everyone in the speaking world. There is no lack, right? That whole mentality and mindset of abundance. You can't outgive. And the more value you give, the more you're going to establish that you are the one to come to for that information. And that there's more there. There's more than just that talk. I want to get his books. I want to figure out, I want to follow his socials, right? I want to figure out how I can learn more from Dr. Greg Wells. So I love that you brought that up, because if we hold back because of fear that somebody might steal some of our information, you're basically shooting yourself in the foot by worrying about that too much.
It also, as you made an interesting point in that response, which is 100% I agree with. And that is that, like, I could give my entire slide deck to someone and they would not deliver it the same way that I do. And that's okay. And I hope that they do that because they could then go out and support other people. I've also shared frameworks that I have heard repeated from other people. And I'm okay with that because it is pushing those ideas out into the world. I would be great if people referenced where they get their ideas from in their speeches, and it takes very little to do that. A quick comment, I heard this from so and so, blah, 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 whatever it is, or you just simply put the reference at the bottom of your slide. And that way we're giving credit where credit is due. Obviously, you don't want to steal research, you want to steal ideas and pretend like they're your own. That's brutal. But if you are the conveyor and context creator that's who's able to synthesize what a lot of people have said are complicated ideas and make it understandable and actionable for people, that's spectacular. Read the research, tell people about the research, but reference the research. And then you're going to win over and over and over again.
Fabulous advice. You're exactly right. I think one good example of that I am aware of. There's many examples out there, but because I've spent thousands of dollars on his program, I could get upset that he actually gives all of this away for free, right? Why did I spend those actually tens of thousands of dollars for his program? His name's Jeff Walker. And basically he's a leader in email marketing and sales through, just he calls it the sideways sales letter, right? And um once or twice a year he actually does a multi-day workshop where he gives away everything, literally step by step, instructs, asks, answers questions, gives away his whole framework and model, and then goes on to sell. I think it's like a $3,000 program, and then you could step into his $10,000, $15,000 program. Why would you? Right? He's got a book that lines out his whole formula. He gives it away twice a year. Why would you then buy it? And it has more to do with, hey, I want to link arms with Dr. Greg Wells and get those nuances, get that personalization to me, um, take it a step further, actually take action on the information. And he's the originator. He's the one that actually caught my attention, and I could understand the process through him. I'm, I'm going to seek him out so that he can help me get, get this result that I'm looking for. So I think that that's a really good example, and something you've caught on to, that nobody can take your information and package it in a way that's going to reach the same audience. Sure, maybe they'll get some clients, right? But they're not going to be able to touch the hearts and reach the people that you were created to reach.
Yeah, that's the idea. And the other really cool thing about that is that it takes away a lot of the pressure and it creates a mindset of abundance, not scarcity. There's more than enough work for all of us. There's very few people that like to stand on a stage and speak in front of an audience. It is the number one most feared profession. And so, those of us that do enjoy speaking, there's plenty of work, and there are many, 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 many people to help and many people who need help. So, even if someone uses any information or research that I highlight and they go out and they absolutely do a spectacular job, that's great because then that audience wants more. And they probably won't bring the same speaker back year after year. They'll be looking for someone else on that topic. And if I'm in that space, I'll win next year. And then I'll pass it on to a colleague of mine the following year. We just need to create a bigger pie, not fight over a small pie. And right now in my world, I talk about health and wellness and peak performance. And the reality is, there are millions upon millions upon millions of people who need help.
Mm.
There are many different ways for us to help those people. We can help those people for free on social, on podcasts. We can write books where people can access our information for $20. We can do public speaking events where we work with a company or a conference, and that is accessible for free for the attendees, and it costs the organizers 5, 10, 50, $100,000 to have us in to speak. Maybe there's programs that companies can take part in. Maybe you can create an online course for a couple $100 for people. There's many different layers that you can create in your business that enable people to access your information at whatever price point they're capable of accessing it for. And the reality is, if you just go in with the pure mindset of helping others, we're trying to help people, we're trying to elevate people, we're trying to raise the world, we're trying to lift people so that they can achieve their true potential. I do that through health, wellness, and peak performance. There's many different topics that you can explore and have expertise on that can help other people. And the reality is, there are millions upon millions upon millions of people that need that help. And if we provide it at scale, if we provide that with a mindset of abundance, it'll probably come back to you. It's the karmic business model, which I learned from Ian Lopatin from Spiritual Gangster, a friend of mine who runs that company. And when I was listening to him do his Q&A on stage, he described the karmic business model. The more his company gives away, the better his company does, which is kind of weird because he's giving away his profits to buy meals for kids all over America. And the more that he does that, the more people buy Spiritual Gangster T-shirts, and the more meals that he can give away. So I think that's an interesting mindset for all of us to adopt. We are just trying to help people at scale. We are giving to others. We are sharing information that is helpful to people. We are seeking to elevate other people's lives in an era when that's not common thinking. That is not the norm right now. People are scared. People are nervous. People are anxious. People are fearful, and in many cases with good reason. But when we elevate everybody, we're making the world a better place. That's what we do. And we all do that in our own area of expertise. The way we do that is by communication, the written word, audio, or video. And when we do that consistently over time, karma will determine that you will get something back from that. If you help a million people, you're probably going to be able to feed your family. So that's the mindset.
Ah, okay. So many fabulous keys in there. And I want to tackle a few of them. And then I want to, there's a lot of people at this point of our interview who want to know how they can find you. So we'll talk about that in a moment. But I think what you're saying is it all boils back to the beginning of why did you become a doctor, right? You don't lose sight of that ultimate goal. You became a doctor not because you wanted to be a prosperous speaker. That's the that's a result. You became a doctor because you honestly wanted to see lives transformed and helped. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been a scientist for actually a senior scientist for the hospital for sick children. I mean, oh my goodness, right? You want sick children well. That's why you got into it. So when your focus remains on that ultimate goal, that ultimate desire, and not on how great Dr. Greg Wells is and how, what your following is and how many speaking engaged, people feel that. They feel where your focus is. As your focus continues to remain on that ultimate goal of helping people, then your right fit people are going to come into your fold. You don't need to beg them. You don't need to do an infomercial every time you get up on that stage. It's going to happen. When you hold back, that's felt energetically. And I love that you shouted out, right? You shouted out the spiritual gangster. I'm going to look them up now. And actually, anytime there's a shout out on my shows, like I just mentioned, Jeff Walker, we actually put in the comments, hey, you were shouted out on this show. It's all for the greater good, right? I'm not going to hide Jeff Walker, you're not going to hide what you learned from the karmic business model, right? You're going to shout that out. And as we're all doing that in that go give spirit, it really just helps people find the information they're looking for and connects you um, to that. So thank you. These are fabulous points you're bringing to the table. How do people find your books? How do they find you if they want just more of what it is that you're bringing to the table?
Yeah, if anyone wants to reach out, I'm super thrilled to support everybody. My website's drgregwells.com, drgregwells.com. All my books are there. There's 5 of them. Information on my speaking is there. The podcast is there. The blog is there. So there's 250 podcast episodes, 250 blog posts, tons and tons and tons of free info, all my socials. Contact page. So if you message me and just say, hey, I heard you on Antoniette's podcast and I have a question about blah, 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 whatever it is, I will totally get back to you. It might take me a little while, but I promise you I will get back to you.
Yes, that's the beauty and pain of being sought after, right? You have a lot more people reaching out to you, but the fact that you said that you will get back to them again speaks to your desire to really meet the people and see the transformation. So that's Dr. Dr. Greg, no tricks, Greg, one G, Greg, Wells, WELLS.com. For those who are just tuning in by ear and not seeing the show notes, drgregwells.com. Fabulous. And 5 different books. And I think you said your speakers page is there as well, right? Because there are a
It
good
is.
number of agents that tune in to find
Yeah.
a speaker for what they want. So you have Wells Performance. You have a company called Wells Performance. Tell me a little bit. You do global consulting, right, across the world. People are bringing you in. What kinds of organizations are bringing you in, and what is your one thing that you try to leave audiences with? I know that probably varies from audience to audience, but when you go in, you get an engagement, you go in, in your mind, how have you succeeded when you walk out?
Yeah, it's interesting. I built Wells Performance just as a consulting company to take my speaking, my books, and our corporate programs to help schools and businesses. The whole idea is for us to answer the question of what would it look like if you went to work and you actually got healthier? Like, what would that workplace look like? What would that school look like? And so my audiences are typically schools or businesses that are altruistic. They're trying to make a positive difference in the world. Their people are interested in health, well-being, and peak performance. And so we work with companies like that in basically all across Europe and Canada and the States and Australia. And so we're very, very fortunate. Actually, last week I did all of Asia with an organization. It was virtual, but it was very cool to speak to people all over Asia. That was neat. And so we have a lot of fun and we love what we do. We do speaking workshops or programs, so you can engage in whatever level that you want. Small groups, large groups, and entire companies. And then the one thing that we try to leave people with is actions, clear actions that they can take right now that will make a positive difference in their health and well-being. So let's say we talk about sleep. We would teach them about defending your last hour, making sure that that last hour is protected before you fall asleep so that you can deactivate, you can fall back, you can fall asleep. Or if you are going to work and you want to improve your mental health, lower your risk of anxiety, decrease feelings of depression. We talk about eliminating all distractions, turning off the audio notifications on your devices, protecting 30 minutes a day for your number one most important priority in a tight bubble of total focus. That term, tight bubble of total focus, from Robin Sharma, the monk who sold his Ferrari author. Again, credit where credit's due. And so those are the types of things we do. We just want to make sure that people leave with something that they can implement in their lives that's going to make a positive difference. And the reason why is because once you make one positive change, the next one is easier. And that's what creates the upward spiral of wellness. And once you get a little bit of momentum in a positive direction, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And we just want to move more people onto that upwards trajectory in any way that we can.
So wins beget wins, right? That's brilliant and key. I hope that our speakers really latched onto that. So if you can, let's say in the span of 30 minutes or 45 minutes, give that audience at least one tangible thing that they can put into practice either right there or easily in their lives, where they experience a micro win, even the smallest of wins, that is going to create a desire for them to get the next win and the next win. And hopefully the desire for them to get that from you. But if not, they're out there improving, right? Improving their lives. So huge. Speaking of micro transformations, as we close, for the speakers who are listening to you right now, listening to this interview right now, and they know they've got a body of work that they've had high success in, and now they want to pass the torch. They want to start getting their voices out there. Is there something tangible? If you were to talk to yourself those years ago when you first really started to get yourself out and into the speaking circuit, right? What piece of advice, what one thing, if you would have done differently, you would do?
If I could go back and speak to Greg 12 years ago and say, do this one thing, first of all, Greg 12 years ago wouldn't have understood and would have probably, it wouldn't, anyway, my ability to learn from myself has improved a lot more now that I'm doing more meditation. But what I would say is simplify relentlessly. Less is more. Simplify, simplify, simplify. Don't try to teach three things. Challenge yourself to teach one thing. Slow down. Be specific. Give people time. Walk them through it gently. Bring out the emotions. Help them see the future that's different if they do this thing. But the magic, if I was to be able to go back and learn one thing earlier, it would be simplify relentlessly. Do less, do it infinitely better. And you don't have to teach it all now. They will come back and you can teach more later. Just do one thing really, really well.
A brilliant piece of advice. I love that we're ending on this. Confused minds don't buy, overwhelmed minds resist, right? Full bellies don't want seconds. I'm very Italian, and my grandfather would like fill my plate. Like my head would be here to the table. He'd fill the plate up here, eat it all, and I'd speak, Grandpa, it's amazing. I love it, but no more. I can't take it. So no matter
Yeah.
how much goodness you have for them, if you give them too much, you're going to leave them with their hands up, kind of resisting. Instead of giving that little bowl of nourishment, that one micro transformation that you were talking about, let them digest that. And then they're going to want that second bowl and they're going to seek you out to get that. So perfect advice as you and I are on a pact to impact and we extend this out to the Speak Pact audience. Let's make the biggest transformations we can through those little micro transformations, right? Step them along. Fabulous. It has been so fun interviewing you. You've just brought so much to the table. Dr. Wells, thank you for being with us today.
My sincere pleasure. I've loved this conversation. It's very different than any other podcast I've ever done. So I'm so fired up about being able to help other speakers and really, really excited and grateful. So thank you.
You brought a lot to the table. Thank you. And for our Speak Pact audience, ciao, ciao for now.